I want to preface this video by saying this isn't one of those exhaustive type of reviews where I'm running benchmarks across multiple different types of systems and comparing them. I think there's plenty of other channels out there that do a much better job than I do in that space, and I think if you were to look, you could find it. Anyways, this is just more speaking on how I came to the conclusion of purchasing an M2 Max MacBook Pro for implementation within my workflow because of pricing and specs and things like that. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and hop into this video. The new 16-inch MacBook Pro with M3 Max chip is priced at a substantial price increase of $4,000. But according to my research, it delivers zero benefit over the M2 Max MacBook Pro for video editors. And let me say that again, for video editors, because the 3nm die works well in a lot of different instances, especially in power consumption. So with that being said, this is particularly disappointing for users like me who primarily use their laptop for video editing, because from what I've done and in my research, it fails to improve performance in that realm. Given how popular these laptops are for video editing, it's important to share my thoughts with others, considering the M2 Max chips can be purchased at a pretty great discount right now. Here's the background. I've been using the M2 Pro Mac Mini and M1 Pro MacBook Pro 16-inch for video editing. However, I needed another laptop for myself because my wife has taken over my M1 Pro for her video work. And I needed a mobile setup for some upcoming projects, and carrying the Mac Mini just isn't really practical. Considering that the improvements in the M3 chips seem to be just a spec bump when you look at it solely for video editing, I thought it would be a good time for me to take advantage of the sales that are going on with the M2 line of chips, because they're no longer in production on Apple's website, but there are ways to get them at a significant discount. I'll talk about that here later. So if I were to opt for the highest end M3 Max version of the MacBook Pro 16-inch, it would be because I wanted the most powerful laptop available, particularly since this is the only model with the full 400 gigabytes of memory bandwidth. I just could not bring myself to spend that much money on the laptop that is $500 more in comparison to last year's or M2 Max's most powerful chip. When they first announced the chips in October 2023, I had an order in for the M3 Pro version of the 16-inch laptop. But upon further review and digging into it more, the memory bandwidth isn't the same. And because this is crucial for laptops' performance in video rendering, I opted to cancel my pre-order. From my perspective, it seems like Apple has neutered the pro level chips in an effort to get you to spend more money for the full performance. For instance, when comparing the M1 Pro MacBook Pro, which has 200 gigabytes of memory bandwidth, and to the newer M3 Pro MacBook Pro, which has 150 gigabytes of memory bandwidth. The M1 keeps pace with the M3 in video rendering on the Pro level chips. This is because video editing heavily relies on hardware acceleration and Apple's media encoder engine, which require fast access to memory. Another important note while I'm talking about this, the number of media engines is important. Apple's Max chips have 2, while the cheaper Pro chips only have 1. Therefore, professional video editors or video editors like me should opt for the Max chip in their laptops for up to twice the speed. And this is applicable across all generation of Apple's M series of processors. In terms of memory, the similarly priced M3 Max MacBook Pro 16-inch peaks at 300 gigabytes per second in memory bandwidth, which is where I started to look at the M3 chips more closely, because it looks like that M series of chip is bent in comparison to what you could get from the M2 Max line. If I wanted a similarly spec'd machine, I would need to add an additional $500 to my order. To me, that just rubbed me the wrong way. So the M2 Max that I have in this video came with 32 gigabytes of RAM, and I have to say, interestingly, upgrading from the 16 gigs that I've had in my previous machines to the 32 gigs that this one has, it has made a little difference in my video editing experience and the performance overall. I totally understand that this is because my projects are not that complicated and they don't have a whole lot to them, because this is just a part-time type of thing that I do here on YouTube. So given that and the perception in similarity of the specs between the M3 Max and the M2 Max chips, I'd say the devil is really in the details when you really start to look hard, especially considering the price. So all of this, I started looking at all of the details. It led me to an M2 Max MacBook Pro. And you know, there are some significant discounts that can be had out there. Since there are no real improvements in the video rendering speed in comparison between the older M2 chips and M3 chips, thought it would be a good idea to kind of talk a little bit about this. Unsurprisingly, the faster single core speeds of the M3 chips makes for everyday tasks faster, and that's definitely true if you're doing other things just, you know, instead of just video editing. I depend on this laptop to do all my channel focused work, and it's something I use daily for other random tasks. From everything that I've watched and all the research that I've done, their performance is just too similar for me to pay the premium for the newer model chips. That feels weird for me to say, as these M chips are just that good. In all honesty, I bet the M1 Pro on my first Apple Silicon chip can carry me for another 3 or 4 more years. One noticeable difference though is that the M3 Max version is being reported to feel warmer to the touch, and I've seen a lot of reports of the fan issues as well, as they ramp up frequently under heavy load. And I've become so used to the silent operation of the M series chips of my laptop and the M2 Mac Mini that I didn't want to pay more money for a helicopter experience that I left in the past a long time ago with the Intel chips. Not to say that they're the same, but I just don't want to deal with fan noise. And from what I could gather, I think the fan noise and the heat is likely due to the additional technology that's bundled in the M3 series of chips. This brings me to my conclusion. The speed of the new laptops compared to the older ones depends on whether those specific tasks utilize the new capabilities. In the case of the M3 processors, these new capabilities offer little benefit for video editors like myself. While the M3 excels in 3D rendering, ray tracing, and other performance-related aspects in those realms, these are not areas that are important to me personally. So essentially, you're just paying more for features that you may not need or want if you're somebody like me. In all honesty, I don't like the changes in some of the more important aspects of the performance while considering the new M3 chips. The memory bandwidth shrinkage and the bin version of the M3 Max, as well as gutting the Pro line of their chips, makes me really think twice before I would recommend them to anyone. I would definitely recommend the M2 chips to anyone, especially now since you can get them at a pretty steep discount. And this is even more true with the M1 line because they're still in existence, and a lot of resellers and retailers still have them in their stock and in their inventory. With all that said, I want to take a moment to speak personally here. I'm not immune to the sense of missing out, and Apple's marketing is really great at creating that around their new products. Even I sometimes feel like the M3 version must be better, and I'll be missing out if I don't buy one. However, the truth is that I won't be missing out. And going with the M2 Max, as I have in this video, simply made it in such, put me in a place to where I saved some money, and I simply avoided giving Apple more money for nothing in return. Before I close, I'd like to clarify one point. My focus was on video editors in this video, because that's who I am, and that's who would benefit from seeking out an older M2 version of this laptop to save quite a bit of money.
The name's
Tomas.
I make car parts for the American working man because that's what I am, and that's who I care about.
However, if your work doesn't rely heavily on hardware acceleration, such as editing or general use, I do recommend the M3 Pro version of the MacBook Pros because they're good. The changes Apple has made, including the mix of their performance and efficiency cores, offers improved performance and longer battery life from what I'm seeing in long-term reviews, making them a fantastic choice for those types of applications. Nevertheless, if you already own an M2 model of the Mac, I would advise you against upgrading to the M3 model. If you're currently using the M1 model, you might notice some improvements, especially in tasks and operating applications or doing some coding or something like that. One thing I will say, I am pretty excited for the M4 chips and what they will bring. One final and very important note, if you're upgrading from an Intel laptop, you'll certainly notice some huge improvements in battery life, fan noise, and heat generation, making this upgrade worthwhile. So if you're interested in pricing and availability of the new M3 line, just go to Apple's website and check it out. But if you want to save some significant cash on the M2 line of chips, check out the Apple's Refurbished store, because that's what I purchased in this video, and you can see that it's absolutely a beast. It's a brand new laptop. It had 2 charge cycles on the battery, and everything except for the cover of the box is like a brand new laptop. So I would highly recommend that you shop on Apple's Refurb store. I'll leave it linked in the description description of this video, and I am not affiliated with Apple in any way, shape, or form. I'm just, you know, guiding you over there. Another note for my fellow veterans out there, if you go through the ID Me portal, you can save an additional amount on your purchase in the Refurb store. So like I said, you can save a ton of money. So I walked out the door with this on Apple's Refurb store using my veterans discount for $2,600. So $2,600 for a laptop that was $3,500 just a little while ago is a pretty great deal in my opinion. I'll also leave some other links in my description that are affiliate links. If you feel like supporting content creation here on this channel, feel free to shop through those, and I appreciate your support. Well, that about does it for me in this one. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, you know what to do. Thank you for taking the time to watch. I'm Tomas, and I'll catch you in the next one.